Some secrets are meant to shield us. Others quietly reshape us until we no longer recognize who we were before. When Martin Chen asked me to keep a secret on that rain-soaked October evening, I thought I understood what loyalty meant. I thought friendship had clear lines, simple, steady, and unbreakable. I didn't realize how one truth could rearrange everything I believed about identity, honesty, and courage. My name is Daniel Torres, and this is the story of how a single secret changed the direction of my life. It's the story of how I nearly lost my best friend, and how, in the same moment, I started to understand something deeper about myself. This is our story. It all began quietly, so quietly that for months I convinced myself it was nothing. But looking back now, I see that the signs were always there. In the pauses between conversations, in glances that lingered just a little too long, in the careful distance we kept even when something kept pulling us closer. Some stories begin with a dramatic moment. Ours began with a misunderstanding and a truth neither of us was ready to face. The architecture firm where we worked, Morrison & Associates, took up the 15th floor of a glass tower in downtown Seattle. Autumn rain slid down the windows every day, painting shifting patterns of blurred city lights. I had been there 3 years, designing homes and offices for people who planned boldly. Even as I quietly built emotional walls around myself, Martin arrived 6 months earlier. Transferring from the San Francisco branch, he was everything I wasn't. Confident where I hesitated, relaxed where I overthought, open about who he was while I kept parts of myself locked away. He moved through the world with ease, like someone who had learned to stop hiding a long time ago. I admired him for that, maybe even envied him. We became friends the way people sometimes do when they recognize familiar loneliness in each other. He never questioned the parts of myself I wasn't ready to explain. He just stayed close, helping me think through designs, cracking jokes during long meetings, and challenging my ideas in ways that made me better. "You think too much about pleasing everyone," he told me once, leaning over my drafting table. His cologne made focusing nearly impossible. Architecture is supposed to be honest. It should reveal things, not bury them. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was the one person who made me hide the most from myself. The October night that changed everything started like any other. We stayed late, finishing a presentation for a difficult client, living off coffee and takeout. The office emptied until only our desk lamps glowed in the dark room. With the city stretching endlessly below us, Adrian Martin said softly. He was the only one who used that nickname. He pushed back from his computer, but this time his usual confidence was gone. Something vulnerable replaced it. "Can I talk to you about something?" Rain beat against the windows like a steady rhythm. I saved my work and turned toward him. His shoulders were tense, and his fingers tapped nervously against his leg. "Of course. What's going on?" He stood and walked toward the window, his reflection faint in the dark glass. "I need to tell you something. But I need you to promise you'll keep it between us. Not just from the office. From everyone, especially Jasper." Jasper Ramirez, the senior partner, Martin's direct supervisor, and the person everyone avoided upsetting. His old-school mindset was no secret. Most of us spent our days navigating his sharp comments and colder expectations. My stomach tightened. "Mark, are you okay? What happened?" "I'm not in trouble," he said quietly. "I just need someone I trust to know the truth. And you're the only person here I trust like that." His words should have felt comforting. Instead, they settled over me like a heavy blanket. "All right," I said. "I promise." He finally turned to face me. There was fear in his eyes, and something else I couldn't place. "I'm seeing someone," he said. "Someone from work. And things are getting serious. But because of the company policies and some other complications, we can't let anyone know yet."
Relief
Hit me before I could stop it. Relief in something that felt painfully close to disappointment. Of course he was seeing someone. Someone bold. Someone sure of themselves. Someone who wasn't me. "That's great, Mark," I said with a smile I hoped looked real. "You deserve to be happy," I told him. "Who's the lucky guy?" Martin let out a breath and ran a hand through his dark hair, leaving it slightly tousled. "That's the problem. he said quietly. I can't tell you who he is, not yet. Not because I don't trust you, but because he's not ready. He's still figuring things out, his family, his identity, everything. It's complicated. There was a softness in his voice when he talked about the other man, something patient, gentle, full of genuine care. It made me look at him more closely. Is he not out yet? I asked carefully. Yeah. He gave a small, humorless laugh. And I know that sounds ironic coming from me, Mr. Confident, Mr. Always Honest. But Adrian, when someone changes your life, you wait for them. You give them space to grow. You don't push. He stepped closer, his jacket carrying the faint scent of rain. His presence always made the room feel warmer. I might need your help sometimes, he added. If Jasper gets suspicious, if anyone starts asking questions, I need someone who can cover for me when I meet him. Someone who understands. The question slipped out before I could stop it. Why me? He looked at me, and for a moment something unspoken filled the air. Something we both felt, but never named. Because you're my best friend, he said. Because you're loyal. And because, he hesitated, I think you understand what it's like to keep parts of yourself hidden, even if you never talk about it. My face warmed with a mixture of surprise and truth I wasn't used to facing. Mark, it's okay, he said gently. I'm not asking you to explain anything. I'm just saying I see you, Adrian. The real you. And that's why I trust you with this. What could I possibly say? Here was the one person who made my emotional defenses feel fragile, the one person who saw through me without trying, asking me to protect his growing relationship with someone else, to support his happiness while my own feelings stayed buried in silence. Of course, I finally said, whatever you need. His smile lit up the room. Without thinking, he pulled me into a hug, steady, warm, familiar. It lasted just long enough for me to memorize the way we fit, like pieces of a design that naturally complemented each other. Thank you, he murmured, and I understood exactly what it meant. Too well, the weeks that followed turned me into Martin's closest confidant. When he needed to leave early, I covered. When Jasper questioned his distracted mood, I created deadlines that didn't exist. When coworkers noticed his good spirits, I redirected the conversation effortlessly. I watched him get happier day by day, and I told myself I was glad for him. I listened to vague stories about quiet dinners and weekend plans. I never asked for details that would make things harder for me. I became an expert at building new walls inside the old ones. Layers of friendship, duty, and silence. He's thinking about telling his family, Martin said one afternoon in November. We were reviewing blueprints, though his mind was miles away. Not publicly yet. Just his family. He's scared, but he's braver than he thinks. It's good, I said, straightening a sketch I'd already finished. You must be proud of him. I am. Martin put down his pencil, eyes sincere and worried. But I'm terrified too. What if things change? What if it becomes too much for him? What if I'm pushing him without meaning to? His vulnerability did something to me. This was Martin stripped of his calm armor, honest, anxious, deeply committed to someone who held his heart. You can't protect someone from growing, I said softly. Coming out is his journey. All you can do is support him, stand by him, and let him set the pace. That's what trust looks like. He studied me with a thoughtful smile. When did you get so wise? When I learned what it meant to care about someone I couldn't have, I thought, but aloud I answered, probably just common sense. The truth was different. I was learning about love through distance, learning about courage through Martin's honesty, learning about myself through the ache of wanting something I couldn't name aloud, and slowly, quietly, I accepted who I was. I was gay. I always had been, and I cared for someone who didn't feel the same way. It should have crushed me. But instead, it felt like fresh air after years in a closed room, cold, real, clarifying. I started changing small things. I stopped dodging questions when coworkers asked about my personal life. I joined Martin at an LGBTQ-friendly bar he liked, letting myself exist in spaces I once avoided. For the first time, I was learning who I was without fear guiding every step. I didn't make a grand announcement. That was never my style. But little by little, I stopped hiding. I stopped dodging questions. I stopped shrinking myself. I simply allowed people to see me as I was. Of course, Martin noticed. "Adrian," he said one evening, as we walked toward the parking garage, our footsteps echoing through the quiet corridor. "I'm proud of you. Whatever direction your life is taking, I'm proud." I couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm not doing anything special. Just trying to be myself. That's the most special thing anyone can do," he said gently. He nudged my shoulder with his. "And who knows, once my friend is ready to be more open, maybe the three of us can hang out. I think you'd really like him. You two have more in common than you think." The offer was kind and impossible, maybe, I said. But inside, I knew I couldn't sit across from Martin and the man he cared for. I couldn't watch the small, gentle gestures, the quiet closeness, the look in Martin's eyes that I wished, just once, he'd give to me. Even loyalty has limits. December arrived early and cold, surprising everyone with a dusting of snow. The office buzzed with holiday party plans, but underneath it all, Martin seemed increasingly anxious. "He wants to come to the party," Martin told me during a coffee run. "He thinks it's time people see us together, even if we look like just colleagues. But Jasper will be there. And you know how unpredictable he gets after a drink or two? So you're worried," I said. "That and something else." He stirred his latte without looking up. "What if people notice? What if they look at me, look at him, and just know? I've tried so hard to stay careful, but he makes me forget to hide." I understood that feeling too well, too painfully well. "If you're not ready," I said softly, "you should tell him to wait. It's safer than risking your jobs." "That's the thing," Martin breathed. "He doesn't want to wait anymore. He's tired of pretending. He says he's finally found his courage." Martin smiled, small, hopeful, proud. "How could I ask him to hide," he whispered, "when he's finally ready to live honestly?" Something about the way he said it tugged at me, familiar somehow. But I pushed the thought away. The holiday party was set for December 20th. I'd already planned my excuse. I couldn't stand in a room watching Martin and his mystery partner share a quiet victory I wasn't part of. But 2 days before the party, everything changed. "Can we talk?" Martin asked after work. He wanted to meet in the same quiet corner where months earlier he'd asked me to keep his secret. Rain coated the windows in streaks, blurring the evening lights into soft shapes. "I need to tell you something," he said, voice trembling in a way I'd never heard. "It's about him. It's about us. About the secret I asked you to keep." My pulse kicked hard. "Mark, you don't owe me?" "Yes, I do." He stepped closer, emotion tightening his voice. "I haven't been honest with you. Not about having someone, but about who?" He swallowed, eyes full of fear and hope fighting for space. "The person I've been seeing. The person I've been protecting." The one I said was finding his courage, his hand lifted, shaking slightly as his fingers brushed my cheek. "Adrian, it's you. It's always been you." The world seemed to hold its breath. The rain became a soft roar, like distant static. Martin's hand stayed against my face, warm and steady. "What?" I whispered. It felt like the only word my mind could form. "It's you," he repeated, voice breaking. "It's been you since the day I arrived here. Every story I told you about him, every moment. It was us. I just didn't know how to tell you. Everything I hoped he'd become? Everything I waited for? I was waiting for you," my thoughts spun, replaying months of memories with new clarity. The late nights, the lingering looks, the careful distance he never quite explained, the way he gently encouraged every step of my self-acceptance. "But you told me about dates?" I said, stepping back in disbelief. "Weekends away, dinners. How could that have been us? We spent all that time together. When would you have?" "I wasn't honest about the timeline," he admitted, heartbreak in his eyes. I exaggerated. I created stories. But they were based on our moments. He took a shaky breath. "Remember that Saturday at the waterfront? We talked for 6 hours. got coffee, walked until sunset. That wasn't just hanging out, Adrian. That was a date. I was on a date with you, even if you didn't realize it. Memories rushed back, Martin laughing at a street performer. The way he bought me flowers from a vendor and joked they'd brighten my apartment. The soft warmth in his eyes when I talked. And suddenly, all of it made sense. The afternoon had slowly blended into evening, neither of us wanting the time to end. I went home that night feeling lighter than I had in years, though I didn't understand why at the time. The concert in October? I whispered now, as everything finally connected in my mind. When your boyfriend got sick and you asked me to use the extra ticket, there was no boyfriend, was there? Martin's expression tightened with honesty that looked painful. There was never a boyfriend, he admitted quietly. I bought 2 tickets hoping you'd say yes. Every moment I could spend with you, I took it. I found every excuse to be near you, Adrian. I've basically been dating you for months. I just couldn't tell you, because I knew you weren't ready to hear it. A wave of anger surged through me, hot and overwhelming. So you lied to me? I said. You kept me wrapped up in your plan without even telling me what was going on. I was protecting you, Martin said, his frustration breaking through. You could barely admit to yourself who you were. How was I supposed to tell you I cared about you when you were still pretending to be interested in Sarah from accounting? That conversation was one you started, he continued, pacing now. You were so afraid people would guess the truth that you hid behind anything you could. He ran both hands through his hair. Adrian, I watched you build walls so high, even you couldn't see over them. I watched you deny yourself happiness and real connection because you were terrified. And maybe I should have been honest. Maybe I should have spoken up sooner. But I was scared too. I didn't want to lose you. So instead, I said, my voice rising, you made me your confidant while secretly hoping for something more. Do you know how that feels? I spent months believing you were in love with someone else. I tried so hard to be happy for you while I stopped, the words choking in my throat. While you what? Martin stepped closer, eyes steady and full of emotion. Say it, Adrian. Please. The truth pushed its way out, slow and heavy, something I had buried for too long. While I fell in love with you, I finally said, voice breaking. While I watched you smile and wished it was because of me. While I figured myself out through wanting something I thought I could never have. The admission echoed between us like the rain tapping against the windows. Martin closed the distance. But he didn't touch me. I'm sorry, he whispered. Adrian, I'm so sorry. I thought I was giving you space. I thought I was being patient. But really, I was just scared in a different way. I created this lie thinking it would protect us, but it only hurt you. That was never my intention. Why now? I asked, why tell me all this tonight? Because the holiday party is in 2 days, he said, and I realized I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I can't keep calling us friends when I feel so much more. And you deserve honesty? You've been finding your courage? You've been stepping into your truth. The least I could do was meet you halfway. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the vulnerability he kept hidden under confidence. Martin Chen, the person I always thought was so sure of himself, had been just as afraid as I was. I don't know how to process this, I said. Part of me is angry. Part of me wants to believe you. And part of me is terrified because if this is real, everything changes. My life, how I show up at work, how people see me, how I see myself. I know, he said gently. And I'm not asking you to figure it all out right now. I'm not even asking for a yes. I just needed you to know the truth, that you have been cared for this entire time. Even when neither of us could admit it. The rain continued outside, steady and rhythmic. Filling the silence between us, my mind spiraled through all the consequences, coming out fully at work. Dealing with Jasper's judgment, balancing a relationship under scrutiny, and then there were the possibilities. Shared mornings, laughter, belonging, a chance to stop hiding. I need time, I said quietly. To think, to figure out if I'm ready, of course, Martin said, stepping back. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. I've waited this long. I can wait longer. And about the holiday party, I'll go alone or not at all. Whatever makes you comfortable. There's no pressure. He managed a small, hopeful smile. Just know that I care about you. That I have for a long time, and I will, whether or not you can say it back. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the city lights through the rain-streaked window, replaying every moment with Martin. Every laugh, every look, every conversation suddenly carried a new meaning. Touches that once felt friendly now revealed a quiet tenderness. Words that seemed casual now felt layered with emotion, and the truth he finally shared unraveled. Everything I thought I knew. He had been trying to protect me in his own flawed, complicated way. He had been giving me the room to figure myself out without feeling pressured by the weight of his feelings. Was it the right way to do it? Not really. Was it confusing? Absolutely. But did it come from a place of care? I couldn't deny that. I thought about my family, my parents, who still hoped I'd eventually marry a nice girl. My younger sisters, who saw me as the reliable older brother. I thought about the version of life I once imagined, and the life I was quietly wanting instead. Then I thought about work. About the comments from Jasper, the side-eye whenever he talked about those people. About how carefully Martin had to move through the office every day, accepted but not fully embraced, and what it would mean for me to step into that visibility too. But mostly, I thought about Martin himself. His laugh, the one that made me forget to guard my heart. His insights that pushed me to be better at my job and better with myself. The way seeing his name on my phone made my whole day shift. The way I'd unknowingly lived half a love story without ever realizing it. By morning, I didn't have an answer. But I had a decision. I needed the full truth. Every detail. Every moment he had quietly reframed as something more. I needed to understand everything I had been blind to. I texted him. Coffee before work. We need to talk. His reply came instantly. Always. Same place. I'll be there. The cafe was quiet. Early commuters moving past in a steady rhythm while Martin and I took our usual corner table. He looked as exhausted as I felt, shadows under his eyes hinting at a sleepless night. Tell me everything, I said. Every moment you disguised as something else. I need to know what was real. Martin nodded, fingers tightening around his cup. The waterfront day was real. The concert, too. The time I called you at midnight? I said someone else needed support, he swallowed. That was actually me trying to work up the courage to tell you how I felt. I panicked and backed out. He took a breath. The weekend trip in November. I went alone. But I wanted you there. I took pictures of places I imagined showing you someday. He pulled out his phone and swiped through photos. Gardens, quiet streets, bookstores, cozy cafes. I was imagining a version of us, he said softly. It probably sounds silly, but it kept me hopeful. I listened, the warm cup steady in my hands. And the dinners? I asked. Every lunch we shared, every takeout night at the office, those were the closest things to dates I ever let myself pretend to have. You were just eating a normal meal. I was. Imagining something more, he gave a small, embarrassed smile. I told myself being near you was enough. I processed it silently. What about the coming out story? You said he wanted to talk to his family? Martin's expression changed. Serious, honest. That was me, he admitted. I projected my hopes onto this imaginary person. I saw you growing braver, and I thought, maybe if I showed you what that journey could look like, you'd feel less alone. Was it the right way? I don't know. But I wanted you to see that you weren't the only one scared. Felt manipulative, I said, but it also made me think. It pushed me to look at my own life. It made me realize how much I was hiding. I'm sorry, he whispered. Stop apologizing, I said gently. I heard you. But you also need to hear me. I paused, grounding myself. What you did was messy and confusing. But I haven't been fair either. I kept you close and pushed you away at the same time. I hid behind fear and mixed signals. We were both trying to protect ourselves. He nodded, eyes hopeful. So, what do we do now? We start over, I said. Honestly, this time, I met his gaze. I can't promise I'm fully ready. I might panic. I might need space. But I can promise that I'm willing to try. Really try. His breath caught. Are you saying? I'm saying I want to see where this goes. No disguises. No pretending. Just us learning together. His smile spread slowly, warm like sunlight breaking through clouds. Adrian, I've wanted that for months. My heartbeat thundered, but I reached across the table anyway, my hand trembling just enough for him to notice. So, said softly, let's have our first real date. One where we both know what it actually is. He laced his fingers with mine, steady and reassuring. When? He asked, voice full of quiet hope. Tonight? After work? I squeezed his hand. And Martin? No more secrets. We do this honestly. Or not at all. No more secrets, he promised. Just us. The rest of the day passed in a haze of nervous excitement and the kind of careful glances that finally meant something. Every time our eyes met across the office, Martin smiled like he was carrying light inside him, and I felt a warmth I had never allowed myself to feel before. We tried to move around the office like nothing had changed. But something undeniably had. There was a softness in the way we glanced at each other, quiet awareness that hadn't been there before. Sarah from accounting noticed first. You seem different today, Daniel. Good different. Did something happen? I almost used my usual practiced answer, the carefully neutral one. But then I remembered the promise I'd made over coffee. Yeah, I said. I think something good is starting. Ace? She grinned. It's about time. You deserve good things. Maybe I did. Maybe everyone did. Our first official date wasn't dramatic or extravagant. A cozy Thai restaurant Martin loved, followed by a walk along the waterfront despite the sharp cold. But knowing it was a date changed everything. His hand in mine wasn't accidental. It was intentional, steady, warm. When he laughed at something I said, I knew he was laughing because he liked me, not just because he was being polite. When I looked at him, I didn't hide how I felt. This is strange, I admitted as we watched the ferries cross the dark water. Being open about this, letting myself feel it, instead of worrying who might see. Good strange or bad strange? He asked gently. Terrifying strange, I said. Then I turned to him. But also, right, does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. He lifted his hand, brushing his fingers lightly along my jaw. Can I kiss you? Our first real kiss. One we both understand. My breath tightened, but in the best way. Yes. He leaned in slowly, giving me space to change my mind. I didn't want space. I wanted this. Wanted him. And for once I wasn't going to hide from what I felt. Our lips met softly, carefully. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic. It was gentle, grounding, and full of quiet meaning. A beginning more than anything else. When we separated, I was trembling, though not from the cold. I love you, Martin whispered. I know it's early. I don't expect you to say it back yet, but I need you to know. The words lodged in my throat, too big, too honest, too real. I'm not there yet, I said quietly, but I think I could be. I think I already am. I just need time to understand it. Take your time, he said. We have time now. The holiday party was 2 days away, and the question hovered between us. Would we go together? Would we go at all? Would we say something without saying anything? The next day, during lunch in an empty conference room, Martin finally asked, What do you want to do about the party? I took a long breath. I want to be brave. I want to walk in with you and not care who sees. But I'm scared of Jasper's reaction, of being office gossip, of everything shifting. Everything has already shifted, Martin said gently. The question is how we move through it. He was right. But knowing something and feeling ready for it were two different things. What if we meet in the middle? I suggested. We go to the party. But we don't make an announcement. We just exist together. If people figure it out, fine. If they don't, that's fine too. Martin considered it. So we're not hiding, but we're not putting on a show. Exactly. Just two colleagues who happen to be dating? He smiled. I should warn you, I'm not good at hiding how I feel when I look at you. Well, I I said, surprising myself. Then people will figure it out. He smiled wider, proud. I felt something steady inside me, something brave. The Morrison and Associates holiday party took over the penthouse of the Grand Lux Hotel. The Seattle skyline glittered against the winter darkness. I changed outfits 3 times before settling on a navy suit, Martin once complimented. Then I stood there staring at myself in the mirror, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed. I'm outside. No pressure. You look great, and I can't wait to see you. Somehow, even without being inside the apartment, he knew I was panicking. I grabbed my coat and went down. He was leaning against his car, the city lights catching on his charcoal suit and burgundy tie. Seeing him there made my heart stumble. This wasn't just Martin, my colleague, or Martin, my friend. This was Martin, my boyfriend. A word I was still getting used to thinking. You clean up nice, Torres, he said with that warm smile that always made the world calmer. You too, Chen. I stepped closer. Ready? Ready to be with you? Always. Ready to deal with everything else? We'll handle it together. Together. The word steadied me. The party was already loud and bright when we arrived. Groups of colleagues clustered around cocktails and appetizers. Holiday music tangled with chatter. We entered separately. Always found our way toward each other without trying, Daniel. Martin, Jessica from design, waved us over. You two look amazing. Are you matching on purpose? Heat crept into my face, but Martin just laughed lightly. And the night began. We must have great minds thinking alike, Jessica from the design team said, winking. Torres has good taste in suits or company. Okay, both, Martin replied, his eyes finding mine with unmistakable warmth. The evening passed in a blur of small talk and appetizers. At first we mingled separately, old habits dying hard. But we kept finding our way back to each other, drawn like magnets. I noticed colleagues noticing, the subtle closeness between us, the easy flow of conversation. The way Martin's hand briefly touched my back when he passed. People are staring. I murmured quietly near the windows. Let them, Martin said, calm. We're not doing anything wrong. But Jasper Ramirez was watching. Our senior partner stood near the bar, drink in hand, his expression hardening as his eyes tracked us. Martin, I whispered, Jasper's watching. Should we? Pretend we don't know each other? Martin asked, jaw tightening. Stand on opposite sides of the room? No, I said. I'm done hiding, Adrian. If Jasper has a problem with who I am, that's his problem, not mine. Martin continued. He's our boss, but he doesn't get to dictate who I care about or how I show it. But I'm not going to flaunt it either. I just won't pretend you don't matter to me unless you want me to back off. I promised. We do this at your pace. I looked around at laughing colleagues, at the city lights beyond the windows, at Martin, waiting for my answer. No, I said firmly. I don't need you to back off. I need to stop letting fear make my decisions. Martin's smile lit up the room. You sure? No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. He laughed, a sound that loosened something tight in my chest. We continued talking, letting our natural connection shine without hiding or performing. When the DJ shifted to slower music, Martin extended his hand. Dance with me, my heart hammered. A colleague asking another colleague to dance? I joked internally. People do it all the time. His eyes held mine. I'm your boyfriend, asking you because I want to hold you. I'm tired of pretending I don't. So, what do you say, Adrian? The room seemed to shrink around us. Eyes watched, whispers floated, but all I could feel was Martin. Yes, I said. We moved to the dance floor. A few couples swayed to a jazz version of a holiday classic. Martin's hand settled on my waist, mine on his shoulder. And suddenly nothing else mattered. Not the whispers, not the lights, not even Jasper's barely disguised glare across the room. You're shaking, Martin murmured. Terrified, I admitted. But free. It's not crazy at all, he said softly. I'm proud of you. This takes more courage than anything I've ever seen. You're doing it on hard mode and you're doing it beautifully. We swayed together, the weight of years of hiding beginning to lift. This was what being truly seen felt like. Terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The song ended, but we didn't move apart immediately. That's when Jasper's voice cut through the music. Chen, Torres. Now, the room's chatter dimmed. Martin's hand tightened briefly on mine before he stepped back, keeping his expression neutral. Of course, Jasper, Martin said calmly. Lead the way. We followed him to a quieter corner near the check-in table. His face was flushed. Anger or alcohol? I wasn't sure. Maybe both. What exactly do you think you're doing? He demanded, low and sharp. Dancing at a holiday party. Martin replied evenly. I believe that's customary at such events. Don't be cute with me, Chen. You know exactly what I mean. Jasper's eyes flicked to me, then back to Martin. I've overlooked certain behaviors because you're talented, but I will not tolerate inappropriate workplace relationships, especially those that could reflect poorly on this firm's values. The word behaviors landed like a slap. My face heated. With all due respect, Martin said, voice calm but firm. What Daniel and I do outside work is none of your concern, and our interaction here at a social event is respectful. We're not flaunting anything, I interrupted before I could stop myself. We were dancing just like Susan and her husband. Like Jennifer and Mike from accounting. Exactly the way every other couple has danced at every work event for years, without anyone questioning their professionalism. Jasper turned his glare on me. Torres, I didn't think you were the type to... To what? I asked. Be myself? Exist openly? My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't break. I've worked here for 3 years, Jasper. I've always been professional. My personal life has never affected my performance. The only difference now is that you know something you used to ignore. This is why we have a fraternization policy, Jasper snapped. Employees must disclose relationships that could create conflicts of interest. Martin stepped in calmly. Daniel and I work on different project teams. Neither of us supervises the other. We're completely within company policy, which you'd know if you weren't trying to use it to justify unfair treatment. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jasper's face deepened in color. How dare you? Dare I point out the comments you've made for years, Martin replied steadily. The remarks about my lifestyle, the assumptions about my priorities, the way you've made the environment uncomfortable under the excuse of firm values. Martin stepped closer. Not threatening, just confident. I've documented everything, Jasper. Every inappropriate comment. Every unfair decision. I've been building a record for 2 years, waiting for the moment you went too far. So by all means, continue. I stared at him, seeing him differently. He hadn't just been confident, he'd been prepared. Protecting himself and others quietly the whole time. Jasper swallowed hard. You're bluffing, Martin said. HR has copies. So does my lawyer. Paused, then added with controlled calm. You're 3 months from retirement. Do you want to spend that time fighting a discrimination claim? Or can we agree that what 2 adults do in their personal lives has nothing to do with their work performance? Silence stretched between us. The party continued around us. The people were definitely watching from a distance. Finally, Jasper said, tight-voiced, this conversation isn't over. Yes, it is, Martin replied. Because if you continue targeting us over this, I will file a formal complaint. And unlike your vague accusations, mine will be backed by documentation. Jasper turned sharply and walked away, heading straight to the bar. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Martin, that was necessary, he finished gently. I'm sorry it happened in front of you, but I'm not sorry I said what I did. You needed to see that we don't have to accept unfair treatment. You've been documenting his behavior for 2 years? Since a month after I transferred, he said softly. I knew someone like Jasper might push eventually. I wanted to be prepared. I never planned to drag you into it. But Adrian, you were incredible. The way you stood up for yourself and for us. I was terrified. Courage isn't about not being scared, Martin said. It's choosing what's right despite the fear. He glanced toward the party, where people were busy pretending they hadn't been watching. Do you want to leave? I thought about it. Leaving would be easy, no questions, no stares. But earlier on the dance floor, I'd said I felt free. No, I said finally, I stay. If people have questions, they can ask. Martin's smile made every moment worth it. Then let's get some of those fancy desserts before they disappear. The rest of the evening was a mix of reactions. Some colleagues kept their distance, unsure what to say. Others approached us with quiet support. Jessica hugged me. About time, she whispered. Tom from structural engineering simply nodded and said, good for you both. But the biggest surprise came from Claire Morrison, one of the founding partners. She approached us near the dessert table. I'm sorry you had to experience Jasper's behavior, she said firmly. It was inappropriate and won't be tolerated. I'll be speaking with HR Monday morning. Martin blinked, caught off guard. Thank you, he said. Diversity is more than a slogan here, she continued. It means protecting every employee. And I've seen your work, Torres. You're one of our rising stars. I'd hate to lose you because we failed to create a supportive environment. After she walked away, something eased inside me like a weight shifting. See? Martin murmured. Not everyone is Jasper, Martin said quietly. No, I agreed. They're not. We stayed until almost midnight. As the party thinned out, we found ourselves standing again at the massive windows overlooking the city. The rain had cleared, leaving the sky sharp and bright, the few stars visible above the glow. Quite the first public date, I joked. Martin laughed. I promise my dates aren't usually this dramatic. I don't know, I said. The dramatic confrontation with our boss really set the tone. He smiled, but I turned to him more seriously. Thank you for standing up for us. For having the courage I'm still figuring out. Adrian, he said softly, you showed courage tonight in ways I never have. Coming out is always brave, but doing it in the middle of hostility, without planning or preparation, that takes real strength. I had you next to me, I said. That made it possible. He cupped my face gently. Can I tell you something? The secret I once asked you to keep? The real reason it took me so long to tell you how I felt. It wasn't just about giving you space. It was also about protecting myself. Because caring about you, really caring, meant risking everything. Our friendship, our work environment, my heart. It felt safer to admire you quietly than to risk losing you. You were never going to lose me, I whispered. Even before I knew it was you, I cared about him, the mysterious boyfriend you always mentioned. I loved the way you talked about him, the patience you had, the kindness. I was already falling for you. I just needed permission to accept it. I took a breath. And now I'm giving myself that permission. I love you, Martin. I'm scared. I overthink everything. And telling my family will be its own journey. But I love you, and I don't want to hide it anymore. His kiss then was different, still gentle, still warm, but confident. A quiet promise, a beginning. When we stepped back, we were both smiling. So, what now? I asked. Now, he said, we go home. We start living honestly. We navigate the tough parts together. HR, family, anyone with opinions, we'll deal with them. Because we have each other. And because you're finally choosing yourself, the rest is details. Months passed. June sunlight streamed through the windows of our shared apartment. Martin's originally, but now ours, since I'd moved in at Easter. His minimalist style blended with my books and plants. Creating something that felt balanced and real, I was reviewing blueprints at the dining table when Martin walked in, still sleep-rumpled. He kissed the top of my head before starting the coffee. Working on a Saturday? He teased. Just finishing some final details for the community center project, I said. Claire wants it ready for Monday. He handed me coffee exactly how I liked it. Nervous about presenting? Nervous about whether the board will approve funding for an LGBTQ youth center? Absolutely. Set my pencil down. This project matters. These kids need safe spaces. They need to see themselves represented in their own communities. If we get this right, When we get this right, Martin corrected gently, and you will. Because you understand what this means in a way some architects don't. You've lived parts of this. He wasn't wrong. Coming out to my family had been as difficult as I feared. Tears from my mother, silence from my father, confusion from my sisters. But slowly, step by step, things were shifting. My youngest sister sent me a small pride flag in May with a note. I'm learning. I love you. It wasn't everything. But it was a beginning. But it was something. Hey, Martin said, snapping me gently out of my thoughts. Where did you go just now? I smiled a little, just thinking about how much has changed since December. 6 months ago, I couldn't imagine any of this. Living with you, leading projects, being open at work and with my family. It all felt impossible. And now, it feels like the only life that makes sense. I turned fully toward him. You know what I realized? The secret you asked me to keep wasn't really about us. It was about me, about hiding who I truly was, what I wanted, what I was afraid to admit. When you finally told me your truth, it didn't just reveal your feelings. It gave me permission to stop hiding from my own. Martin's expression softened, warm, and steady. That's beautiful, Adrian, he said quietly. And maybe partially true. But it was also about us, about the care and hope I'd been holding on to, waiting for the day you'd be ready to hear it. Well, I said, feeling a weight lift. I hear it now. Every day. In every gesture, in every word, in every moment. Stood and offered his hand, pulling me up beside him. Come on, he said with a grin. It's way too nice outside to stay in. Let's go down to the waterfront. Get overpriced coffee, waste a few hours just talking, you know? Go on a date where we both know it's a date, I laughed, remembering how uncertain things used to be. No more secrets, I said. No more secrets, he agreed. Just us, living honestly. We grabbed our jackets and stepped out into the warm Seattle summer. Our hands naturally found each other, steady and sure. I couldn't help thinking about the earlier versions of us. The old Daniel, the one who analyzed every interaction, who feared being seen. The old Martin, the one who cared quietly from a distance, afraid to show too much. Those people felt like strangers now. But maybe that's what growth is. It's becoming someone braver than who you were before. As we walked a young couple past us, 2 men around our age, hands loosely linked, laughing without a care. They didn't know our story. But in a way, we saw our past and our future in them. Their ease, their freedom. It was something we had fought for. You okay? Martin asked, noticing my pause. Yeah, I said, feeling the truth of it. I'm more than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Kept walking toward the waterfront, toward coffee, toward conversation, toward whatever the next chapter held. And as the morning sun warmed our shoulders, I thought about secrets, how some protect us and others trap us, how the hardest part is learning which ones to let go of. Martin had asked me to keep a secret once, but the real secret had been my own heart, what it feared, what it wanted, and how strong it could be when finally given space to speak. We learned. We grew, and on that perfect June morning, we were ready for everything ahead.